Greetings, and welcome to this month's Ask John Anything. I'm John Baylor, founder On to College. We respond to your inquiries, and you are interested in the total cost of college. We keep hearing, what's the total cost of college, and how do I estimate that? Well, it starts with tuition, and that's what typically colleges report, just the tuition, but that's just the biggest component of the overall cost of college. There are 4 other components. Those 4 other components typically amount to approximately 11 grand a year. Let's start with tuition, the biggest component of the overall cost. You know how to lower the cost of tuition, right? You know how to win scholarships that decrease the cost of tuition. The big 3, we keep talking about this. Grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. Scores, ACT, SAT, take it 4 times, at least 3 times. We can help you out, ontocollege.com. Jump that score is the best paying job you ever have in high school. And number 3, an extracurricular, an internship, a musical instrument, a sport, leadership, volunteerism, and market that skill. A little video. We tell you in our Platinum Guide how to market that skill. Send the video out to 50 softball coaches, to 50 jazz band, orchestra directors, whatever the instrument is. Got it? And between grade scores and one extracurricular, you shrink the cost of your tuition. Now what about those other 4? That amount to about 11 grand approximately total. Well, 3 of them are discretionary, and you can lower their costs. So food, housing, and books are discretionary. If you're on a budget, you can lower their costs. You don't necessarily need the biggest and baddest and heftiest food plan. Maybe you can get by on 1 meal a day food plan. I'd love to have you take at least 1 meal a day on campus, because happiness is typically the product of relationships and purpose. And hopefully you've chosen a college that gives you a lot of purpose with fabulous, rigorous classes, changing your life, a lot of purpose. Well, relationships, they're augmented by meals. So we got to get to meals on campus. Can't just be a part-time student who's never on campus, doesn't go to meals. So at least 1 meal a day food plan, if at all possible, or a 2 meal a day food plan will cut some of your costs. You don't need necessarily the 24 meals a week plan, right? So that can save you some dough. Get a little lower, less expensive food plan. Number 2 is lodging. Get a roommate. Get a roommate. Hey, you fill out these questionnaires, you explain what you're like and what attributes you want in your roommate, kaboom. Next thing you know, you have a best buddy. My daughter in college filled out that, hey, she's pretty tidy. She wants a tidy roommate, keeps the place clean. That's what she got. Guess who her best friend is in college freshman year? Her roommate. It's great to increase your quality of life, your connections, your relationships, but also lower your costs. Get a roommate. You can save a bunch of dough on housing. And then thirdly, books. In the old days, we used to have to buy used books if we didn't have any dough. Now, you got used books, you got online options, you got websites. Talk to your professors, talk to upperclassmen, talk to students in the class. You can save a ton of dough. Maybe get all the books electronically. In the old days, it was about $1,000 a year typically for books. Now, I think you can get in for south of $500 a year, but you got to be focused. See, with books and housing and meals, you've got a lot of discretion. You can keep those costs low. Now that 4th non-tuition cost can be pretty fixed. It's tough to wiggle out of it. Fees. You see, fees typically were approved by students who came before you. They said, hey, we want to pay an extra $15 a month to pay off over 20 years the new rec center. We want to pay an extra $8 a month to fund each year our radio station. So these things are, every year, a couple of years, there might be a vote that comes up, but it's largely going to affect future fees. Typically going to affect kids that come after you. So you can't typically get out of them. I mean, maybe you go part-time and that can help you a little bit with the fees, but fees can run anywhere from $800 to $3,000 a year. So they're pretty significant, and it's tough to get out of them, especially if you're a full-time student. So fees, housing, and food, and books. Those are your 4 non-tuition costs. And like I said, housing, food, and books can be discretionary. Fees you're kind of on the hook for. Altogether, they amount to about 11 grand. Oh, housing, if you want to go real cheap for housing, you live off campus. I'm not a big fan. If you can at all swing it, live on campus. Remember I talked about relationships and connecting with the community? Proximity has a lot to do with that. And if you're living far off campus and now you got a car and you're totally detached, if at all feasible, live on campus. Next thing you know, you're joining a choir. Next thing you know, you're going to the theater. You're connected with the community, and it can be very penny wise and pound foolish to live off campus. Unless there's a dramatic financial benefit and it's absolutely infeasible for you to afford living on campus, try. to live on campus. But remember, tuition, lower it thanks to the big three: grade scores and one extracurricular, and those 4 non-tuition costs, at least with books and food and housing. You've got a lot of discretion. Fees, not so much. Together they add up to about 11 grand on top of your tuition. So we got to get that tuition down so we all can graduate with minimal, ideally zero debt. Ask John anything. OnToCollege.com. See you next month.